Television is the most widely used artistic medium in contemporary culture. It grew out of the radio broadcasts of the early 20th century and developed from the traditions of drama and film. It was a product of commercial interests, paid advertising. Because of that, the Federal Communications Commission and governmental agencies that oversaw its early development insisted on its goals being devoted more to entertainment than to education. Television has been shaped by the needs of advertisers. This was not inevitable, but a decision made by politicians in the United States. Now, more than 80 years after the widespread introduction of television programming, the model established by the United States has become the world norm. Television was originally ignored by filmmakers because the inherent limitations of the medium held them back. Standard definition television images are projected at 30 frames per second instead of 24 in order to overcome limitations of the low resolution image itself. The pixels in a video screen do not admit that range of contrast or that level of detail and resolution that are common to the continuous imagery of film. The interior of the cathode ray tube had 525 vertical by 740 horizontal lines of pixels. The pixel is a group of red, green, and blue light-emitting phosphors. And because of technical limitations, the actual screen size was closer to 480 by 740 pixels. Today, the use of digital projection and digital cameras has made some of those limitations less significant. Current television screens are large enough to create home theaters. To a large extent, high-definition broadcast standards have closed the gap between television and film. High-definition flat screens can contain 1080 vertical by 1920 horizontal pixels, permitting vastly improved details from both broadcast television and DVDs. The moving image is as important to television and video art as it is to film. The power of the image to excite the viewer, combined with music and sound, is becoming an intense experience as the technology of the medium develops. Surround sound, large projection screens, and LCDs, and the development of digital high definition have transformed the small box into an overwhelming and encompassing television experience that can produce almost the same kind of participation that we experience in a movie theater. The subject matter of a given television program can range from the social interaction of characters on programs such as Seinfeld, Friends, and NCIS, all the way to the political and historical issues revealed in Roots and Holocaust. Programming can be realistic or surrealistic, animated or with living actors. But in all cases, the power of the moving image is as important in television as it is in cinema. Video art, however, the opposite of commercial entertainment television, because broadcast television centers on the needs of advertisers and depends on reaching specific demographics, and so has become slick and predictable. There is little room for experimentation in commercial television, but the opposite is true for video art. Artists such as Nam June Paik and Bill Viola are distinct in that their work has pioneered the use of video terminals, video imagery and sound, and video projection as central to the purposes of the video artists. Instead of a single image to arrest our attention, Nam June Paik often uses simultaneous multiple video monitors with different images, whose intense movement is rarely linear and sequential as in conventional broadcast television. His images appear and disappear rapidly, sometimes so rapidly that it is difficult to know exactly what they are. Paik has inspired numerous contemporary artists who work with and interact with monitors to achieve various effects. Video art surprises us and teaches us patience at the same time, just as television programs and films can be experienced on computer screens, cell phones, and tablets. The same is true for video art, because it is an international movement. The internet permits us to see the work of a great many leading video artists from around the world at our convenience. For more than half a century in the United States, a few major networks dominated commercial television. NBC, the National Broadcasting Corporation, CBS, the Columbia Broadcasting System, ABC, the American Broadcasting Company, PBS, the public broadcasting system, and more recently Fox Entertainment. Similar patterns existed in other nations. Since 2000, however, the spread of cable service has enlarged the sources of programming and has begun a major shift in the habits of viewers, who now have a much greater range of choices among hundreds of channels. Studying the content of early situation comedies reveals much about the social structure of the family and the larger community. Early comedies were often ethnic in content. The early shows, including The Honeymooners with Jackie Gleason, usually portrayed urban, working-class families facing some of the same everyday problems as did the audience. The early television series programs were self-contained narratives that had a beginning, middle, and end. The episodes of each program were broken by commercial interruption, so the writers made sure you wanted to see what happened next by creating cliffhangers. But each episode was complete in itself. Because there was no background preparation needed, the viewer could see the episodes in any order and be fully satisfied. Until late in the 1980s, that was the standard for a series. In the popular Western series Bonanza, the characters generally remained the same. Situations were familiar and appropriate to the locale, and the sense of completion at the end of each episode was satisfying. Current crime dramas, Law & Order, CSI, and each of their branded versions follow the same pattern. Each of these successful series depends on that formula. One type of program with which commercial television has set itself apart from the standard production film is the serial. While the standard production film is about 120 minutes long, a television serial production can be open-ended. Soap operas, daytime television's adaptation of radio's ongoing series, were broadcast at the same hour each weekday. Viewers could begin with any episode and be entertained, even though each episode had only a minor resolution. In a sense, the structure of the soap opera contributed to television's development of the distinctive serial structure that remains one of the greatest strengths of the medium. Robert J. Thompson has said, quote, "The series is, indeed, broadcasting's unique aesthetic contribution to Western art." The first important serial program in the United States was Rich Man, Poor Man in 1976, a 12-episode adaptation of a novel by Irwin Shaw. But the power of the serial was heightened by the production of Roots in 1977. It was seen by 130 million viewers, the largest audience of any television series. More than 85% of all television households were tuned in to one or more episodes of the series. The subtitle of the serial, The Triumph of an American Family, focused on the public's attention on family and family values. Alex Haley's novel represented itself as a search for roots, for the ancestors who shaped himself and his family. African American slaves were ripped from their native soil, and the meager records of their travel to the West did not include information about their families. But Haley showed how, by his persistence, he was able to press far enough to find his original ancestor, Kunta Kinte, in Africa. Roots, which lasted 12 hours, explored the moral issues relative to slavery as well as racism and the damage it does. The network was uneasy about the production and feared it might not be popular, which was the primary reason why the 12 episodes were shown on successive nights. The opening scenes of the program, not in Haley's novel, show white actor Ed Asner, then a popular television figure, as a conscience-stricken slaveboat captain. This was intended to make the unpleasantness of the reality of slavery more tolerable to a white audience. We now know that the network executives didn't need to worry because the series captured the attention of the mass of American television viewers. Never had so many people watched one program. Never had so many Americans faced questions related to the institution of slavery in America and what it means to those who were enslaved. Roots changed the way many people thought about African Americans, and it also changed the way most Americans thought about television as merely entertainment. From 1999 to 2007, in 86 episodes, David Chase's epic portrait of Tony Soprano and his family riveted HBO viewers. Unlike virtually all other shows in the gangster style, The Sopranos portrayed Tony as a fragile, haunted man seeing a psychiatrist. His dysfunctional family attracted much more attention than any normal mafia series would ordinarily have done. Because of the show's quirkiness, the major networks, ABC, CBS, and Fox, rejected the series. Because HBO was a subscription service and not available on the airwaves, The Sopranos had the advantage of being able to use language characteristic of mob characters, an advantage that made the series achieve more credibility. The Sopranos narrative line was extended throughout the 6-season run of the show. The standard episodic self-contained structure was abandoned early on, and as a result, HBO established new expectations on the part of its audience. The Sopranos was the first major extended serial to change the way in which viewers received their dramatic entertainment. In 1999, that was completely new to television, but today it is common for viewers to wait before watching all the episodes of a given season. The term binging or binge watching was first applied to viewers who watched the first 13 episodes of the Netflix series House of Cards, a study of British politics, all in a marathon single setting. By 2013, in its 3rd season, the British serial drama Downton Abbey on PBS became one of the most watched television programs in the world. Almost the polar opposite of The Sopranos, it represents a historical period in England in which the language is formal by comparison and the manners impeccable. What we see is the upheaval of the lives of the British aristocracy in the wake of historical forces that cannot be ignored. The fascination of the drama centers on the ways in which entrenched societies deal with massive social change that alters lives suddenly and with completely unexpected results. Technological changes such as the introduction of the telephone are met with comic reactions from those who reject them and fail to adapt to them. Even more stressful, a major portion of season 2 takes place shortly after World War I. One of the strong attractions of Downton Abbey has been its capacity to make the historical events of the period touch us through their effects on the characters of the drama. The attention to detail has also been a major attraction of the series. A great deal of care has been taken in reproducing the furniture of the rooms in Highclere Castle, the setting for most of the series. The same is true of the costuming, which is authentic for the era. Because the Crawleys are wealthy, the dresses and suits are elegant. For those interested in vintage transportation, the series uses a number of early automobiles, including one remarkable Rolls-Royce open touring car. History is alive in Downton Abbey. Video art dates from the early 1950s. Its most important early artist is Nam June Paik, whose work opened many avenues of experimentation and inspired an entire generation of video artists. Paik, known as the father of video art, was at the forefront of cutting-edge technologies and utilized them to create innovative artworks, the likes of which the world had never yet seen. His various experiments positioned video as a viable art form. His body of work is eerily prophetic to our contemporary information age. He is credited with coining the term, quote, electronic superhighway, unquote, and his revolutionary creations laid the groundwork for today's artists working in new media art. The most celebrated video artist working today is Bill Viola, whose work has been exhibited internationally and with great acclaim. He is steeped in the tradition of the old masters, especially those of the 14th and 15th centuries in Northern Europe and Italy. His techniques vary, but one of the most effective is the slow motion work that makes it possible to observe every action in great detail. He uses high-definition video where available and achieves effects that recall great paintings. The Greeting, created in 1955, is a projection in heroic size of 3 women standing in a cityscape reminiscent of the Renaissance painting of the same name by Italian artist Jacopo da Pontormo, dating from 1528 to 1529. In The Greeting, the wind blows softly, moving the women's draped clothing. Except for the wind, the projection is almost soundless. the action pointedly slow but ultimately fascinating. The resources of slow motion video are greater than we would have thought before seeing these images. Viola's techniques produce a totally new means of participation with the images, and our sense of time and space seems altered in a manner that reveals both the sense of the work and the human content of greeting and joy. Take a moment to consider. Visit Bill Viola's website, listed here, with a link. Which work seems more interesting to you? Do you feel you participated in his work? In summary, television is the most widely available artistic medium in our culture. The widespread accessibility of video cameras and video monitors has brought television to a new level as a medium, available to both the professional and the amateur. Television's technical limitations, those of resolution and screen size, have made it distinct from film, but new technical developments are improving the quality of its imagery and its sound. Commercial television dramas have evolved their own structures, with episodic programs following a formulaic pattern of crisis points followed by commercial interruption. The British Broadcasting Corporation helped to begin a novel development that distinguishes television from commercial film, the open-ended serial, which avoids crisis point interruption and permits the television to explore the richer resources of narrative. Video art is, by way of contrast, completely anti-commercial. It avoids narrative structures and alters our sense of time and expectation. Because it is still in its infancy, the possibilities of video art are unlike those of any other medium.